All right. So, as I always do, I ask people how they're doing when I first see them, and then I ask them again 20 seconds later when I hit record. So, how are you doing today, bro?
I am doing well. Let me say thank you for having me. When I got your email, I was like, cool, because I already heard of you. I've watched your content. So
Wow.
I was happy to do this. So thank you again. It is my honor to be sitting with you and, chatting it up.
Bro, that means so much. And you've been doing this for quite a while. I've been doing this for about 3 years. And I think one thing to hear you say that, it's like sometimes we just need to hear from other creators as well as other people who've been rocking with our content. We need to hear explicitly from them because it can't, I don't know if the word is lonely, but it can get, you don't always know if your stuff is resonating with the right people and this and that. So the fact that you've heard of me is news to me, and I appreciate you sharing that with me. And I'm just as excited, if not more so, to have you on today.
I'm going to even tell you how I even found out about you.
Okay.
It was because of your connection with teenage engineering.
Okay.
And I am a strong, I would say, I use the POs. So
Nice.
I'm a fan of the POs, the pocket operators. Personally, I have four of them.
Wow.
So when I saw the things that you had, that you talked about with teenage engineering, I'm like, okay, he got some nice, I can learn some stuff from him, man. And you even
Yeah.
had like some gadgets that I wasn't even aware of, and it made me
Okay.
want to kind of investigate. So that I went down the rabbit hole and looked at your content, and I saw that you do courses and everything, and
Yeah.
that's dope, man. So keep doing your thing, man.
Hey man, I genuinely appreciate that. I got my TE gear
Yeah,
always handy, always
yeah,
in arm's
yeah.
reach from where I'm sitting. You probably seen this. I got the mixer and whatnot.
Right.
Um, and dude, you talk about courses. So I was checking out your page a little bit, and one thing that I wanted to kind of start with is this let's see, piano chord for producers
Okay.
ebook that
Hmm.
you put out. So I saw that, and it resonated with me deeply because that is an area that I have strong passion in. Being a piano player, being a pianist, someone who gives piano lessons, but also now, or for years now, took a little break, but now started back a few months ago, taking lessons as well to kind of just, I want to be the best possible player that I can possibly be. And in conversations with other producers, this whole world that I had no idea about until I guess, became a content creator and started having conversations. But this whole world that there are many people who produce music who, I don't know if I use the word rely, but yeah, who look for loops and samples to kind of start their music. That whole world I had no idea existed, right? Because I came up from when I was 16, I had like a Yamaha motif back then, and just being able to play by ear and kind of figure things out in the keys, that was how I started music. So I just didn't even know this place existed, but I have a calling for myself to do kind of similar to what you're kind of doing in that standpoint. And I just actually, as I hesitate for a second, I just I just heard my Bluetooth headset low battery signal pop up. So I'm just thinking for a sec. I'm going to probably in a moment. Actually, I'm going to do it right now. So let's put a pause on this. I'm just going to connect a pair of headphones. I'm going to throw some headphones on instead of these. So stand
Cool.
by for 30 seconds and then we'll continue. Okay? Yes, sir. We'll do this and grab these. Okay. Left, right. Go in here. And we will change the speaker to this. All right, mic check. I should still be coming in, and let me hear you as well.
Mic check 1 2.
Excellent. Go up a little tiny bit. Okay, so I'll figure out exactly where to cut, but let me rewind a few seconds so we get a smooth cut there. But yes, a calling to educate other producers and musicians on how to do that part themselves, right? How to figure out foundational chords and progressions, and just kind of like that's going to be. I'm usually all over the place in terms of always having different ideas and never knowing exactly which direction to go. But I know for a fact that 2024, like my mission statement and like the main thing that I'm going to be focused on in 2024 is like reaching as many people who want to know about this space of creating their own chord progressions. That stuff to me, I love it so much. I love learning chord progressions to songs that I wouldn't have thought to. Like, for example, I was upstairs playing the piano. My wife was decorating Christmas. I was practicing some classical song that I know. And she's like, oh, you know what song would be good to know? Would be good to play? Donny Hathaway, This Christmas. I'm like, oh, I love that
Nice.
song. She loves that song. I'm sure you do. Everyone, it's an amazing song. And when I hear that, and I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have thought to learn that. Let me go ahead, pull the chord chart up, and then let me learn it right there on the spot. And then being able, and this is kind of to me where the magic happens, right? Being able to take it's a really beautiful chord progression, but take that and then make that be a variation of that, be the genesis of whatever it is that you're creating. That whole thing is like what I want to focus on inspiring people to do next year.
That's exactly why I even created the book, because I wanted people that had no knowledge of keys, but they still want to play keys. They can have a guideline and then maybe change it up a little bit and make it your own.
Yeah.
But give them something to start with.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I always say this on my channel, like when I'm doing techniques and inspirations of other producers, the point is to grab inspiration, not to clone somebody, but to take it and to flip it into your own personal way.
There you go.
And that goes with anything. It could be a melody, it could be a chord progression, it could be a bass line.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's like the analogy of we all use words, but you create your own sentence.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we share words, in the English language, but then we create our own sentences and paragraphs with them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. 1000%.
So,
it's a great analogy. It very much is. And I think that just kind of, looking at some of your recent posts, you had another thing that really resonated. Again, another thing. So that's why I'm like so excited to chat with you. You talked about in one of your videos just about how we need to maybe is a little strong. I think the way I said it, but I think you basically were inspiring people to say like learn how to use what you have already. Right, this whole area for me being someone who's blessed, and I'm not gonna say I never thought I'd be in a position, but I didn't know when or if it would happen where I have access to so much stuff. And in one area, like it's beautiful and awesome that companies like TE and others that send me stuff. It's like incredible. It's like, wow, I wasn't here a couple of years ago. Now I don't have to spend my own money for it. But on the other hand, I learned quite quickly actually that dangerous, again, strong word, but it can be dangerous, right? Especially for creatives when you have too much stuff in front of you, you get overwhelmed. Like I have this company, Zounds, who they're incredible. They reached out to me, and I still don't know how they're able to do what they do, but they're able to select certain creators and you can choose different stuff and they can send to you for as long as you want on loan. And when I got the email, I'm like, okay, where's the catch kind of thing? And then we had a call. I'm like, okay, where's the catch? Until I, put my wish list together and got like 4 or 5 things I've always wanted. And then I get it here and, I had 5 things in the room. I'm like, okay, where do I start kind of thing? It was like overwhelming. So I had to learn that just because you have access to everything, it doesn't mean that you need to overdo it. And you have to kind of understand a cadence that makes sense for you,
Definitely, because it's like if you have too much stuff, it's like you said, you lose focus. It's like, where does your mind go? And you're trying to figure out everything, and it's like it can be very addictive, man. And that's why I said in the video, I'm guilty, man. I got more than enough what I need.
Yep.
And when someone comes to me and asks me, what should I use? What should I get? I say, do you have a computer? Let's start with that. You're good.
That's it.
If you have a computer, you are good. You can get you some free software and start with that. You don't need all these drum machines. You don't need all these keyboards. You are good with just a laptop. If you really go further than that, if you have a smartphone, you good.
Yeah,
that's it.
For sure. That's it.
That's it.
Yep.
So we get too caught up on the latest tech and the latest gear because it's like I said, it's the next shiny thing, man. But man, we have to really pay attention to it's really psychological. It's a marketing thing.
100%.
I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I mean, I'm gonna be straight up. It's like it's marketing. It's like they're playing to our emotions. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, do you really need it? That's not the word. They don't care about need. It's do you want? That's what they play on. And so it's like when we see something new, we're not even thinking about do we need it or should I spend the money? I don't care. I don't have the money, but I want it anyway. And that's what happens.
Dude, social media, seeing everyone with something too, especially on the days, like we know it, right? When the days when something new comes out or is unveiled or something. And again, we're both guilty of it. Like you mentioned, I know for a fact that I am. I've had to like learn over the years, but you see everyone with it and it's just like, man, like you just said, like I need that too. I want to get my hands on that too. But ultimately, like when you just look here, man, I'm just like so blessed. And I think that the way my mind works, like I mentioned earlier, just having this mindset of, okay, what's going to, and maybe this is even a thing just moving forward, you know, but like what is going to be the theme or the mission statement. I was listening to a podcast and like this is a YouTube group, nothing to do with music, but they talked about like every year they get together. There's a few of them that are on this channel together, and they talk about like what their mission statement is or like what's their main theme, I guess, of the year. That's why I kind of opened the conversation up like that. Thinking about, it doesn't need to be at the top of the year necessarily, but for me, it kind of like feels right, you know what I'm saying, to start at the top of the year and knowing, okay, what I want, what my I guess goals are, but now it's a matter of, okay, how exactly do I execute them? Is this a live stream thing? Is this a Patreon thing? Is this me giving just an abundance of free content? That to me, like, let's make it accessible to start with. Like that's the formula. Make it accessible to start with, and then for people who want to go deeper, right, there's opportunities and stuff like that. And so kind of fine-tuning the whole thing. But man, I'm excited. And even this, man, like this podcast right here, you know, I call it a podcast. I have to be careful because it's not even on all podcasts. It's only on YouTube. But I guess technically it is a podcast. I'm trying to figure out, I want to make it a little bit more accessible next year and get it out there on all the streaming platforms, I think. But this is so dope to me to be able to connect with people like you, because I talk to a lot of people and I always ask myself, like, and I'll even ask you, like, how often in our space do we have a chance to sit down for an hour and, you know, talk to someone who speaks the same language as us? Most of my friends, they don't know anything about this space. So I mean I've spoken to them about some of this stuff, but they care because I'm interested in it. But they can't, you know what I'm saying? We can't really have a conversation like you and I and like other creators have. So I really very much value this. And the more I move forward with it, the more I'm like, okay, this is also going to be a major theme of next year, to make sure that in these hour-long conversations, people who don't have the time or aren't willing to like watch the whole thing, there's so many tools out there that can take this whole hour. It's like mind-blowing. We'll talk about it later, but can take this hour and do all of the work of getting the summary of the whole, using AI and stuff, right? Getting the summary of the whole conversation, getting shareable clips, all this stuff. So it's now, I know I have the tools I need. Now it's just a matter of sharing it in a strategic way, whether it's daily, whether it's every other day, and having fun with it, you know?
Yes. I think it's definitely needed, man. So kudos to you for even doing this. And yes, I will call it a podcast.
There we go.
It's definitely.
There we go.
I mean, because like you said, we really don't have this conversation a lot with our own peers. Or were you referring to like other content creators or just people in general?
Yeah, with regards to, well, so I was saying that I don't have this talk with other people that I grew up with that I'm still friends with. But I'm saying also that like now the people that I have on here, most of them, the vast majority of them are creatives, content creators, musicians, artists, etc. So this is something that it's rare. It's rare to sit down for an hour and have an intimate.
It is.
I have my, like, I actually have it, like, if you were to look at this room now, I have my monitor obviously right behind where I'm looking at you, and if you're more than welcome to do the same. But there's a way here in this app to minimize yourself. So usually both people are same size, so you can minimize yourself. And so what I do is minimize myself, and then I drag the window over, so I don't even see myself anymore, because now it feels as though I'm actually in a room, almost. And I mean, it's not gonna be like lights and stuff like that necessarily, but now it just feels more real, right? We're actually talking to each other versus me looking over and making sure I look the certain way or whatever, like on Zoom or something like that. So I try to fine tune it to make it feel as authentic and good as possible.
That's dope, man. And man, thanks for doing this, because I wasn't even familiar with this site that you're using. So I'm gonna have to do my homework.
Yeah. Oh man, this platform, Riverside. Let me tell you, I used to use Zoom. Riverside is I don't know how they do it, but I mean, first of all, native professional quality video and audio. So like whatever you're filming on, whatever I'm filming on for audio and video, I'm gonna get the full quality, as opposed to Zoom at like 720 or something like that. Maybe they go up to 1080, but it's like more expensive to get that plan. But then they have so many new features that they keep coming out with on here. Like I was mentioning earlier, this AI space that the world is starting to know about, and a lot of people are afraid of, understandably. But there's so many, like the tool here, specifically on this app, after we're done, I'll click a button, I'll generate AI clips, and it'll do just that. It'll go through the whole conversation. It'll know the words that we're saying, which is scary to some, or not air quotes, but it is scary, right? Okay, fine. But it'll know the words, and it will take topics that we talk about that it knows that people are searching for or that people are interested in. It'll take moments where there's a laugh or where something interesting happens, and it'll know, oh, that's a good moment, that's a good clip. It'll do the vertical thing. It'll have you and then me. You can add subtitles. So all that stuff is the area that I don't want to say hated, but I truly did not enjoy doing, having to have the conversation, or not have it. I love having the conversation, so getting to do that, but then having to go through it again and find the moments. Like I didn't do that because it was not, as a creative, that's not fun and creative work for me.
Man, listen, it's I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
People don't realize the folks that don't really do content creation, they don't realize the work it takes to edit. It takes so many hours, man. That's one thing that I'm not a fan of. But so I do understand the AI part of it, because the purpose of it is to be to speed up the workflow, and everyone wants a better workflow. That goes with anything. So especially with videos. So anyone who does videos, man, I'm all for it. If you can make that quicker. Why not? I can't hate on it.
Yeah,
I can, because editing is crazy, man. It takes. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, okay, so what I do is when I'm live on Twitch and I'm making beats, what I'll do is I'll cut that up to put on YouTube. Okay, so I'll edit all the super boring stuff that you don't really care about, so I can make it seem more smooth and watchable. So I'll do that on my movie editor, and then but see what happens is, if I'm streaming for like an hour, that would take me at least 2 hours to edit, minimum, maybe 2.5, sometimes 3, to cut it down to like maybe 10 minutes. That takes a long and people don't realize that, man. It's some work, man, but you gotta love what you do.
You have to.
You have to. That's why you have to love it, man. It's a passion.
That's so true. And I want to talk about that for a second too. There's so many different areas, so many topics and stuff I want to talk about. We'll get to as many as we possibly can in the hour. But you mentioned Twitch. So how long have you been streaming on Twitch? And tell me about like what that experience is like for you, being able to interact with your audience and have them see you in your element in real time.
It's fun, man, because to me, all I'm doing is documenting what I would do in real life. That's it. So I don't look at it as really creating content. I'm looking at it as just documenting what I do. Yeah. And I love the interaction, because it gives me a chance to connect with people. And people who just see me through YouTube, they might not know some certain things about me, so they might ask me a question on Twitch. Yeah. And I'll just go ahead and answer the question. Yeah. Because now they have access to me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Sure.
So I love it. I've been doing it since I think before the pandemic. So probably, I think around 2019, somewhere around there. Yeah. And I love it, man. It's fun. I do it. I try to do it at least once a week. Okay. So
yeah. Do you have like do you do a schedule? Do you have it when you feel inspired? Like, what's your sort of cadence with that?
Well, I try to stick to a schedule of Wednesdays. So like today, normally I would have went on today, but I didn't. I took today off. Yeah. because I wanted to prepare for this.
Sure.
So I said usually like Wednesday afternoons is like my schedule.
Very cool.
For Twitch.
Very cool.
And some people do it more often, but I do so many other things. I can only do so much.
Yeah.
I'm not an everyday Twitcher.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So
once a week. Okay. And so in those sessions, like, do you obviously you got your keyboards that I see in frame here, but are you using those? You have a DAW that you use, and if so, what's like your sort of main setup there?
So my main setup is I'm using Logic Pro. I'm a Logic Pro user,
Okay.
and I will use keep my MIDI controller mainly to my right,
Yeah.
and I'll use my drum machines, and I'll use like, depending on the kind of music I'm doing or what I'm feeling or the type of sound that I'm using, because this is a Fender Rhodes, and sometimes I'll just play that,
Yeah.
and then also my Yamaha on top, the Mo XF.
Oh yeah.
8.
Nice. Okay.
So I know you know about that because I seen you just got the Montage, right?
Dude, I do the M8.
I know you love it.
Love it's even beyond that. I'm like obsessed with it, as I expect it to be. It's so good.
Well, Yamaha, they've always had great sounds, man. So kudos to them, man. I know you love that keyboard.
Dude, yeah. So coming from the motif and then having a chance to try a lot of different things out. Like I had the Roland Phantom from, I guess, 2018, which is also an incredible keyboard. And I'm sort of like wrapping my brain around my thoughts about and experiences with that and compared to this, and like thinking about what the main differences are. And one of the first things that I noticed about this, and I expected it to be the case because I know, about Yamaha's lineage, is as a keyboard player, I remember with the motif, there being a lot of presets, we'll call it, or scenes, or whatever the term that they use at the time, of like just fun and inspiring playability with regards to piano or keyboard sounds. And as soon as you start playing, it throws like a nice drum loop over it, and then it probably has like a bass line that's going with the sounds you're playing, right? So that whole thing I was used to from back in the day. And I know that the Roland Phantom, at least not the presets that came on there. Maybe, I'm sure there's a way to program it and stuff like that, but that was never really my strong suit, and I never was that interested in taking the time and dialing everything. I just wanted to kind of play and just kind of enjoy. So I missed that with the Phantom, but I loved about the Phantom is that it had a full-fledged like way to create beats and songs right on the keyboard, which for me, I'm not much of a DAW person. I've used Ableton. I've actually started dabbling with it a little bit more, but I love being able to create just on the device that I'm using rather than having a lot of different things. I guess most people are used to having, different keyboards and stuff. So this one here, as I started experimenting with that exact thing, like going through these sounds, and my mind was blown. I was actually doing a live stream myself, I think for this particular time on YouTube. I started live streaming on YouTube a little bit more, and that's why I asked you about Twitch, because I was like, I used to be on Twitch back in the day. I deleted Twitch from my phone for whatever reason. I enjoyed the live streaming, but I think I was like a little overwhelmed with trying to build a community there as well as other places, and I had to kind of put my, I guess, stake in the sand or whatever, and kind of say, let me focus in on one area before kind of spreading myself too thin or whatever. So I was doing a live stream there. But yeah, there's so many just great and fun to play sounds for keyboardists that, again, just blessed to have a chance to check this thing out and want to, my goal at all is not about, inspiring anyone to buy this. This is a super expensive keyboard. It's about, I'm having fun with this. Like, if you're already interested in it and you want more information, like, here, I can, I can share that with you.
Definitely. And to be honest with you, before I started making beats on drum machines and samplers, I was making beats on workstations.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I would just do straight keyboard beats, like, like the Neptunes, how they use the Triton.
Yeah.
That was me, but I didn't have a Triton, but I had in which I still have to this day, is the Roland XP80.
Okay.
Which came out in the 90s.
Okay. Yep.
Yes. So, I mean, Teddy Riley was using the XP50.
Okay.
So
Legend.
the XP80 is the one like with 77 keys. Okay. So it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was doing that, man, for a long time, and before that, I had a Yamaha SY77, man, and this is like the 80s versions of the DX7.
Okay. Yep.
Yamaha.
Yep.
So it's like, man, I'm taking it back just thinking about those digital sounds and the FM synthesis.
Yep.
Man, I wish I still had the keyboard, but the thing about that keyboard was it was so heavy, man. It was like trying to lift a organ or something. I mean, man, that thing was heavy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, those keyboards were great, man. I love workstations to this day.
Oh, absolutely, man. They're very inspiring to just turn on and just get in that world, especially as creators, right? Using the computer for a lot of other things and stuff, and maybe people who, I don't know, work full time doing something else, doing something that requires them to be in front of the computer, which for me, you know, I have engineering background, so I used to work at Verizon for 12 years actually, and like in that time I'm in front of a computer a lot of the day and stuff, so the last thing that I wanted at that time was to be in front of a computer to make music. So I think that was also kind of part of it a little bit. But one question, and I expected this to happen, we just dove in. One question I want to ask that I usually ask people to start is I want to know a little bit about your background. So what was young J.Filt like?
Young J.Filt was, you know, just a kid, you know, from Cleveland, Ohio, Cleveland Heights, actually, which is like 20 minutes outside of Cleveland. Just a kid who loved to create, man. I could just remember as a kid growing up, both my parents were very, very into the church. So I grew up in church.
Nice.
And my mom was the minister of music. So there was always a piano at the house.
Okay.
So I would tinkle around as a kid. So if I wasn't playing on the piano, I was playing outside, you know, just roughing it up, just being a young kid, basketball, football, just, you know, just playing. But something about the music just always spoke to me because the piano was always in the house and I was around music.
Yeah.
So, you know, I remember like when I would get in trouble, my mom, she didn't say you can't go outside. She didn't say, you know, you can't play outside with the rest of the kids. She said you can't touch that piano.
Wow. Yeah.
And she knew how that hurt me.
Yeah.
That's how bad I was into it.
Yeah.
That was punishment. So she knew. So that right there told me like, okay, yeah, I'm really in. I mean, I didn't realize it at the time, but you know, I guess when that would happen, it would just like tear my soul apart.
The worst.
So, you know, when I got my first little keyboard, little toy, it wasn't even a Casio. It was some off-name brand I got from, I don't know, Radio Shack or something. And I used to just mess around with the sounds, man, and just, I was always fascinated with creating. So, you know, fast forward, I went to the, I made it to high school, obviously, and I used to be in the gospel choir.
Very cool.
I used to play keys for the gospel choir.
Okay.
So, and that was out of force. I did not want to be in it. I was like, I don't want to play no gospel music. You know, I was always, you know, hip hop and all that stuff. But I was talked into it. Shout out to my homeboy Will. He's the one that got me into it, and so that actually was the best thing that happened to me because it helped me develop my ear.
Okay.
So I was learning how to play all these gospel songs, man, and then actually ended up playing at church, and that took it to a whole nother level. So, and then I started transitioning from playing gospel music to jazz music and R&B, and then started gigging and it just started growing from there. Now, all during this whole time, I called myself trying to make beats, but I really wasn't good. I was just trying to play what I could hear on like MTV raps, you know, just play hip hop songs. So I'm developing my ear, not even realizing. Fast forward, I moved to Atlanta, which is where I am now.
Okay.
Before I get to Atlanta, let me get to college. I go to the University of Cincinnati. So I was in the College Conservatory of Music. So I majored in electronic media.
Wow.
So that's how I started getting into the electronics and the engineering, music engineering.
Yeah.
That's how I learned how to use Pro Tools.
Okay.
From there, I started interning in studios. Then that's how I started getting into the whole engineering and the mixing. So it's like, okay, I'm getting all this stuff. I'm really digging into this music hard. Fast forward to Atlanta. I started, getting serious with making beats because that was always from day one. As a kid, like I said, I was on that little keyboard trying to make little creations.
Yep.
So it was a full circle thing for me. So all that knowledge that I gained just put into where I am now.
Wow.
So
man.
that's pretty much where we at.
That's dope. Well, so in that process, your YouTube channel spawned. You
Yeah.
started a YouTube
Yeah.
channel. What year
Yeah.
was that, and what was your sort of, I guess, spark or like, entryway into doing this? What was like the reason that you thought making a channel was something that you wanted to do?
Well, first I should say this: before I had the Very Sick Beats YouTube channel, I had another channel. A lot of people don't know this because I don't even do anything on that other channel. But that channel was dedicated to documenting my hair growth.
Oh wow, nice. Okay.
So before I started, I didn't even have locks at all. I had like a low brush waves, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay.
Low haircut.
Yep.
And I started seeing people doing what they called dreadlock journeys.
Okay.
I'm like, cool, I should do my own dreadlock journey. So I decided to just do a YouTube channel, right?
Yeah.
And so every month, like once a month, I'll get on YouTube and document my hair growth, right? And so I made it all the way to, I had a couple of stumbles where I quit, but then I got back to it.
Yeah.
And then I made it to, the length where I could shake my hair. Like, look, I made it, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So then that fell off. I got bored with it. And then I said, let me do another channel. What do you mainly do? You make beats. So my first video, I'm just showing myself on the keyboard, just making a beat. And then from that, someone asked me a question. I answered the question in the next video. That's how it took off.
Wow.
It all came from me answering questions. I would get every video that I would make, someone would ask me a question. That's when I started realizing, okay, maybe I can help more people. If someone is asking this question, somebody else might have that same question.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And let me do this.
Yeah.
And then so it was all solution based. I'm like, okay, there's a problem. I need to be the solution. So then it got to the point where I was actually looking for questions.
Yeah.
Like questions that I had. I would go on YouTube, and if I couldn't find the answer, I would just create the answer and make the answer. Which is why I did my ebook. That's how my whole 16 pad ebook came about. Because I was looking for a book to show me how I could play chords on my MPC.
Okay.
This is before they had chord modes.
Yeah.
This is before that.
Right.
And so I said, let me create that, because they got guitar books, they got piano books. How come they don't have MPC books?
Yeah, sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I promise, I Googled, I searched, I couldn't find it. So I had to create it.
Tell me about that book.
That's what happened.
That book is a 4x4, like 4x4, how to play chords using a 4x4 pad grid type thing?
Yes.
Yes. Cool. Okay.
Yes. It's called the 16 pad manual.
Okay.
16 pad manual.
That's cool.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I actually have 3 versions. The one is just it's called, the first one I did was called Essential Hip Hop Chords. So it's just like basic major chords, minor chords that you can play on the MPC. So as long as you have a 4x4 pad, then you can use the book.
Gotcha.
So then it progressed into like more advanced chords, and then I started doing progressions and then scales. So that's how that all came about. So it came off of a problem. I had to do a solution.
And that sounds so like fundamental and like it's like logical. It's like, and it's really cool how that worked. It's like it just built on itself. That from that first video, if someone has a question, then at the bare minimum, you know that this next video that you're making, that as long as that person subscribed, and I guess this is many years ago where I guess it was even more likely, I guess, that the person that asked the question is going to get served up your next video, hopefully. But that you making this video is going to resonate with at least, at the bare minimum, one person, which we can't really say for sure when we're making videos without going based on audience feedback. Like we expect, the new gear or whatever we're talking about, we think that people are going to, but you knew for sure, and then that just kind of built on itself, which is which is really cool. And that is that still? I mean, obviously that's years ago, and now you've built your brand into something a lot more like established and stuff. Would you say that is that still a way that you've sort of inform yourself on what to release next?
To this day, it's still my train of thought. It's like even on recent videos, I'll say something like, I hope this helped at least one or two people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And if I get one comment that says, yes, it helped me, I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't care if it's only 10 views.
Yeah.
I don't care. If I feel like my purpose is to help.
Yeah.
Is to serve others.
Right.
So if I'm serving at least one or two other people, then that's doing something.
Yeah, for sure.
So I keep that mindset, and then everything else will come after that.
For sure. Yeah. So let's talk about, like, say if someone out there is looking to, get into music content creation space. So there's, I think it's well documented that, like, on, I guess, releasing music on Spotify and stuff, and you see these graphics about how little money that you make for as many streams and all this kind of stuff. But now there's so many different ways, whether it's Patreon, whether it's an ebook, channel memberships, live streaming, like you mentioned, and I guess bits on Twitch and et cetera, et cetera. So, like, what would you say, like, is, I guess, once you've sort of built this foundation, you built the foundation of free stuff, right? With your YouTube channel, free information, and now you kind of have enhanced content that people who are looking to support and looking to kind of dive deeper can kind of access with the ebooks that you mentioned, and things like that. What would you say, like, out of the different areas that, from a money perspective, like being able to earn, have earnings with your music and content, what area is, like, the, I guess, strongest area for you when it comes to that? Is it your ebook sales? Is it people donating on Twitch? Is it something else, Patreon or something like that?
I would say it's a combination of my website, which is where I sell all my, my ebooks and sample packs,
okay,
and then also brand, working with brands.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and that comes just from building your following and becoming a quote unquote authority.
Yeah.
Because then they'll come at you. They'll come after you.
Yeah.
And I won't always accept deals that are offered to me just because I try to be I'm really big on integrity. So if I don't even believe in the product, then I'm not going to even accept it because I know I wouldn't use it. You know what I'm saying? But
yep,
fortunately for me, I've been blessed enough to accept brand deals that I'm really feeling. You know what I mean?
You believe in what they offer.
Right. I believe what they do.
Yep.
So between that and also another thing is I'm a live musician. So I play, like, to this day every Sunday morning at church.
Oh, how cool, man. Wow.
So Zaytoven, right? He's still a musician.
Wow.
And he still plays at his church.
Wow.
A lot of people don't even realize that.
Okay. I didn't know that.
So I mean that's part of the reason why his beats are so melodic, because he plays the keys, he plays the organ.
Yeah.
I play keys, I play the organ.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so that's what keeps me afloat.
That makes sense. Yeah, Zaytoven, he's one of the people that I'm very inspired by when I was, like, researching this whole topic about music producers. People who make music, who produce music, who have a strong, who are keyboard players and or pianists and have a strong grasp on musicality. He was one person, like, I was, like, researching. I'm like, all right, so who else out there, like, really has that, right? Because I think a lot of people that I know who are big name producers can't play the keys like that. They can get around the keyboard or whatever. And I knew he was one person. And then who do you think the other person I'm gonna mention? You definitely heard of him. And his name starts with the S.
S.
Yeah, SS actually. So first and last name. If I say it, you'll know it. Let's give it a little. Put some Jeopardy music on. If I had this, throw the Jeopardy music.
S. Is this a hip hop producer?
Yep. And he worked.
Scott Storch.
There you go, dude. Seeing him, seeing him, so he got, like, his blunt or something like that.
You didn't even play the Jeopardy music. You didn't even get to it.
I was like, if I
Yeah,
had it,
Scott
let me do it
Storch, yeah,
quick.
he could play, man. He can play.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Super
I
nice.
remember him when he was with the Roots.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
yeah, I realized that early, man. That he's and I'll give you another one, man.
Please.
You got Scott Storch, you got Zaytoven. Another one is but he's really R&B, and that would be B Cox.
Oh, so I haven't heard of him.
Brian
Okay.
Michael Cox.
Okay.
You know, he's done a lot of like Usher stuff.
Ah, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
All right. I have to look that up.
Mary J. Blige, you know, he's worked with Jermaine Dupri and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if that counts because he's R&B, but
Well, sure. I mean, he's producing, but he has a strong grasp on playing. And then, yeah.
And he's best friends with Robert Glasper.
Oh,
you know what I'm
wow.
saying?
Okay.
So, what can you say?
Yeah. Say less, right? Man. Okay. So, all right. So brand deals. Yeah, I think that's an area, and it's funny you mentioned that about the integrity thing, because yeah, that's hugely important, right? The moment that, I don't know, you accept a brand deal, and it's no shame on anyone for doing this, because hey, look, you know, we do have a living to make, earning, you know, living to make, and all that kind of stuff. But the idea is like, if it's obvious and evident in the content that you're making that you don't really care about a product, then you know how our audience is. They'll be vocal about it, and it'll be very, I think, detectable immediately. You know, someone that reached out to me, I forget if it was, I'll just say because I don't remember which one it was, but it was one of the like online betting companies, like one of these ones, like, you know. And so they hit me up, and I remember like on Twitter or just wherever online, and I would see celebrities promoting these brands, and they were always like the one area that I was just like, never, right? Because I don't really believe in gambling, and I think it's like a lot of, you know, like people are not, I wouldn't even say taking advantage of, but almost you can kind of say that, right? Feeding to their desires and whims, and here's some free credit to do this and that and stuff, and then they end up going in debt and all that. I don't even know that to be if those numbers are exactly right, but that's just kind of what's in my head. So when they reached out, you know, I was talking to my wife. I was like, yo, so, you know, they asked if I wanted to do an ad on my channel or whatever, and I was like, it was a fun exercise in thinking like, okay, you know, what dollar amount would I be willing to accept to do some type of a video or whatever the case is? And I came to the conclusion that it was $1 trillion. No. I came to the conclusion that like at this point, like for what I'm trying to do with my channel, like it wasn't a good idea to accept anything, because the idea, like you just mentioned, integrity, that's the key word here. I have a plan on what I want to do for next year. I believe in the plan. I believe that you know, the growth has been good to great so far in different seasons. You know, it's like it's kind of changes and stuff as time goes on, but I feel confident that, you know, the right companies, right, whether they're ones that reach out already or ones that I find out about, that I reach out and that are willing to have a conversation, these things are kind of starting to happen now. And so so I said, you know what, thank you, but no thank you. But it was kind of cool and interesting to at least have that conversation, because what if they said, you know, cause I'm sure they have a lot of money, I would imagine, right, being a gambling company. So what if they said something that was like outlandish? Would I have taken it? I don't know, but I decided that it wasn't a good idea. I was like, let's not do this right now, you know?
Right. I feel you, man. I mean, I'm not going to knock anyone's hustle, man, and I don't want anyone to get it twisted. Like, if you need to pay bills, do your thing.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, what do you want people to come to you for?
Yeah.
You know, do they want to see you just advertising every last thing? It's like, oh, if that's your thing, hey, go for it. But if they're going for a certain purpose, they want to go to that and see that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
For sure.
So I try to stay consistent on everything that I do, man. You know, and if you want to veer out, I'll create a different channel or another avenue to do that. So
that makes sense.
I think that's what helps me build my platform.
Right.
Because I've been doing the same thing since day one.
Authenticity, so key. So we talked a little bit about AI. Like, have you dabbled in this space at all? Have you like looked and explored what's out there and like had a chance to like use any of this stuff to help what you do?
I have used AI. Now there's some programs, and I see the pros and the cons, and I'm glad you asked that question. I'm gonna talk about the pros first.
Okay.
So the pros, like I said earlier, it has to do with workflow.
Yeah.
If you are in a creative struggle, or if you haven't beat block, for lack of a better term, you might need something to spark some creativity, and that's where AI can help you with that. Now I'm just talking about like AI music tools right now. Okay. We could get into like videos and pictures and stuff, but just like music right now.
Sure.
I feel like if you are struggling music wise and you need something to boost you, like for example, there's a program called I don't know if I should put their name out there like that. We'll just say I'll just keep it just general, because there's tons of programs. Sure. Okay, so if there's a program out there that helps you create a melody, okay, cool. Now that has sparked me to finish around that melody, so that's a good thing. Same thing with chord progressions, like. The difference between my book and AI is mine is on paper,
Sure.
And it's there for you, and you just use
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
And then you just work around it.
Right.
Okay. Here is the problem, though. The problem is people think, okay, they are taking away jobs from musicians, or they're taking the creativity out of music, and you're not really making music. You're cheating. And I hate to hear that. I'm against that. I don't feel like using AI is cheating. Personally, I don't feel like that. I feel like depending on how you use it as a enhancer. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So it's not a thing where it's cheating. Just like when people say sampling is cheating. No, you're taking something and creating something new with it.
Sure.
Same thing with loops.
Sure.
I don't know anyone who just takes a straight loop and don't even touch it. To me, that's different. If you just take a bunch of loops, boom, that's the beat.
Right.
You're not doing anything. You're not going to fade it out. You're not going to change the key. You're not going to chop it. You're not going to move a note. Right. You're not going to put a tremolo on it.
A little
nothing. Nothing?
Right. Come on, man. Yeah.
So, that's different. Now, I'm not talking about that.
Sure.
I'm talking about people that's, they're taking something and recreating it and making it their own. You're taking ingredients and making your own cake.
Yeah. Yeah. You're so right, man. And as I'm listening to it, I'm kind of thinking about, I'm like, yeah, how is that any different than the aforementioned, the three examples that you just gave? I mean, I'll even take the book out for a sec, because to me, the book is like, okay, you're showing people the progression. So they're seeing it and then they're having to figure out how to play it, kind of thing, right? So that's like similar, but I'll put that to the side. I'll say like loops and sampling for people who say, and this is a great dialogue, it's a great conversation. I'm interested for anyone that has their thoughts, like to kind of reach out or drop a comment, wherever you're listening to this. Because I'm like, yeah, they're all enhancers. I like that word choice, right? They're all something that you're using as a starting point. And I remember I was sitting there. So here was my thought, right? I was sitting in a Ableton launch, virtual launch event the day before they unveiled Ableton Live 12. I was sitting here in this room with 100 people, and they gave us like a sneak hour-long preview of like when they're unveiling this, which we didn't even know was gonna be the next day, but sort of exclusive type thing. And they talked a lot about this melody and chord starter thing that's gonna be built into Ableton. And I remember as I was watching that, in my mind, as a pianist, as someone who does his own chord progression, own melody and stuff, I was kind of like, I don't need that. I don't even see myself using that personally, right? And I was also like, this is gonna be so dope for people who don't have the skill set that I have. And as I'm looking at the comments, people were genuinely excited. Oh my God, this is going to be so helpful, et cetera, et cetera. Mind you, of course, there's, plugins and that type of thing that I'm sure people have used, but having anything built into whatever you're using, I think is amazing. So I was excited, on their behalf. I'm like, oh, this is super dope that this is something that exists. Now taking that to this whole area of, okay, that's music. Now we talked about like video a little bit earlier, and maybe even, I don't know, content or songwriting, like these other areas. These are areas that I'm weak in, right? I don't yet. And next year when I start experimenting a little bit more, I want to start using my voice in my songs in some way, right? Because I have an amazing, crispy voice. I have the microphone.
Claim it. Yeah. Claim it.
Dude, 1,000%. Yes, I want to use this. I want to like figure out ways to tell stories and stuff like that. So that's going to be happening next year as well. And so for me, if I were to say to someone like, oh yeah, okay, so I have this dope song that I put, or this dope beat, melodic, and it sounds so cool, and I'm going to go ahead and use AI to help me tell a story, right? And I have some ideas about it. So I could totally understand 1,000% how someone who's a singer-songwriter will look at that and be like, that's, why are you doing that? Like, you're supposed to come from the heart, that type of thing. But the same way that they would say that is how I would, in my mind, not say it, but in my mind think like, oh, you're using a chord progression starter? Like, why don't you just play it yourself? Like, because everyone has different strong suits, right? And for me, like you just said, being able to just explore it, I'm extraordinarily passionate and intrigued to the 10th degree, 100th degree, 1,000th about generative AI and like using it in ways, like you just said, to enhance, and how it's going to like change things, hopefully, prayerfully, let's say prayerfully, for the better. It's, I'm thinking like right now, like in a different dimension, not literally, but like I'm thinking like, imaginatively in a different dimension. Years ago, decades ago, when there was a thing that was rumbling that was about to come out called the internet, before it was an actual thing, there were people like me and you that were having conversations about this thing that's going to be able to, contact people, across the world, chat with them, do all these video, like all these different things that the internet allowed us to do. And right now, I believe that when I think about generative AI and some of the things that I've been experimenting with, like I tutor math, right? I tutor calculus and tutor K through 12. That's like my main, financial driver, and something I'm super passionate about. Yesterday, I had a mom contact me. I started working with this kid who's in college, freshman in college, and I've only been with him for a few weeks now, but he got a really poor grade on it's not a good vote of confidence if K-Math say one of my students, but I've only been a couple of weeks, right? So we're kind of working through that and stuff. But he got a really bad grade in his second final just now. So we had a really good talk with the mom to kind of figure out action plan, and we're, enhancing certain things and all that. But this session that I had with him yesterday, it was a different session. It wasn't like, okay, let's take a look at your practice final exam. He has a final exam coming out in a few weeks. Let's take a look at that, and let's just hit the ground running, just learning how to do these problems, et cetera, et cetera. It was, all right, we're going to do that in a few. But first, let's talk about calculus. Let's talk about this. You're in this class called calculus. Let's talk about what it is. What is it used for? Like, what's the overall, top-down sort of philosophy of this topic? And I know what it is. I can explain it. But I was like, let me just throw this into, I think I use either Bard or ChatGPT. Let me throw it in there. I said, hey, I have a calc, student, 12th grade, and I want to do an introduction to calculus, high level, as well as like real world examples. And wouldn't you know, that sending that in there and reading the breakdown, I was just like, my God, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, to me, what I can see, if I close my eyes and think about all the different things that I do, and the things that I think in a year or two from this moment right now that can send me into some other space, in terms of reach, in terms of helping people, it has a lot to do with leveraging AI in an educational way. Being able to like have that exact breakdown of this topic that people, 9.9 out of 10 people that I ask about, whether they're in calc or have taken it or whatever, they're not even going to think of it the way that this program presented it. So for me, how do I package that? How do I sit in this very room and do a, you know what I'm saying, a face and breakdown and explain it? Do I do that coupled with a really nice graphic? Something like that is what I believe that people would find immense value. And I know we took a left turn from the music space, but this is like a thing that I'm just very curious about how it's going to play out in the next couple of years.
Let me ask you something though about that. So, and this kind of will bring back to the music, but you talking about calculus and what you asked GPT. GPT. Did you feel like the answer was totally everything you needed, or did you feel like there's something that you could have added personally yourself to make it even better?
Good question. So I would say the latter, right? It was a starting point. As I read this and I look at it, if I'm doing some type of a talking to camera thing where I'm like, I would 1,000% want to use this as a starting point for sure, and then think about everything that I know, all my experiences, and how to inject little pieces of that into what's given there for sure.
I'm going somewhere with this. So for your listening audience, I want to encourage anyone who doubts or feels like AI is going to replace us. No, it's not. Because it's missing the human element. It can never, ever be human. That's why I asked you that question.
Yeah.
Because you felt like, yes, I can still use it as a starting point, but I'm still going to do my thing to it. That's just the thing with the music. Like these AI companies, and they create. There's this one program that will put out a whole beat for you. The whole beat. You just describe what you want, right? Describe the words, and it'll make a beat for you. And you listen to the beat. That's it's okay, but no, I still need to do this.
Yeah.
I still need to do that.
Right.
That's why we don't have anything to worry about, man. And I just want to remind folks of that. That's people that's feeling that way. No, it can never replace us as human beings. AI doesn't have a soul. I mean, it can learn, yes, but it does not have a soul.
You're right.
So it's like that's what creates us as individuals. Not there's no two people in this earth that's the same. Everybody like our fingertips. That's why everyone's fingertip is different.
Yeah.
Out of what 8 billion people on this earth.
Yeah.
No one is the same. So there's reason for that.
1,000%, man. I think that's important. It's important to be said, right? I think it can get so close that for people who are paying close attention, even though they know that right now, there's still this separation. It's like, I don't know if you checked out like the ChatGPT voice thing that they came out with a few weeks ago that you could talk to and then it talks back to you. Even that compared to, I don't know, Siri or Google's, I forget, whatever Google's like AI was calling the phones or is called. But even like checking that out, that to be, so here's my thing, right? So that is and I encourage you to check it out, see for yourself. But that is the first time by far that I felt like one of these, iRobot or one of these types of movies, like interacting with that version versus everything else that, again, those two, Siri or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's what, if it's wild to say the least. It's worth checking out. I'm into technology. I'm an engineer. I did engineering and stuff. So for me, like also, again, all over the place, as I watch Google, they just released their thing called Gemini, which is their version of the, like their latest version of AI that builds on Bard and stuff. And they just today, a few hours ago, they have like a little presentation about it and stuff. And I don't know. Yeah, just thinking of and inspiring ways to have it to educate people on how it can help them. Other teachers, other educators, other musicians, people who are into chords. Maybe you want to do a daily chord challenge. Maybe you want to learn a chord progression a day. That's something that it can give you. And you can now reinforce your skills and learn rather than look up a chord progression, which, again, is fun to do when you hear this Christmas or whatever, you get a recommendation. But having, like, if you want to wake up every morning and just be like, yo, I just want an easy and a hard one to practice every single day, that's something it can do for you. You're going out with your wife to New York City like I just did for our baby moon, which is We're having a second child that we haven't put out there.
Congratulations.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Nice.
Haven't put it out there yet. So for people who are listening to this, they get the exclusive. I had it make an itinerary for us. I said, we love Mexican food. We love pizza. She's pregnant. We don't want to do too much walking. We want to chill, romantic. It said, and we have $1,000 budget. Oh, okay, cool. Day 1, day 2, day 3. Bryant Park, do this, do that. I'm like, okay, that's pretty interesting. So as you can see, I'm very interested. I'm kind of like fired up about it. But from the music perspective, I totally agree with you that that it's something that we can use to enhance and think about what we're doing, but we don't have to use either, right? If you don't, you're not going to be, in my opinion, left behind from a music perspective if you're not using AI. There is a good chance. You mentioned about video editing and stuff. I encourage you to check out and see what's out there, but there are many apps that will take your full thing and it will take out the ums and it will take out the dead silence, and you can dial it and say, I want this hour long to be 10 minutes. Now, will it cut out something that you thought was super interesting? Maybe. That's something probably, you have to kind of experiment yourself. But there are things out there that, that video editors who there are people out there that love doing that, just like we love doing music. So those are people who are going to say, no, that takes away the human element of video editing, which again, for me, I'm kind of a back and forth with that, figuring out, do I love video editing? Or do I do it or I should even say or do I do it just because I need to? I'm still educating myself and kind of thinking about that a little bit,
Right.
But let me give you 2 rapid fire questions real quick, and then we're going to get ready to wrap up, okay?
All right.
First question is, name a place that you visited that you loved.
A place that I visited that I love? I don't know if I say I loved, but I really had a fun time, and that was Vegas.
Oh yeah, okay, nice. Yeah, Vegas is good.
Yeah, Las Vegas.
Okay,
yes.
Okay. Did you hit up Old Vegas when you were there? Do you know where that is? Like the.
I did hit up Old Vegas. Yes,
that's like where the locals I think go. So it's like a total different vibe. It's like off the.
Yes.
Okay, that's definitely good stuff. I went there for my 30th birthday with another couple, my wife and I. We saw the Michael Jackson, like was it Cirque du Soleil? I guess Cirque du Soleil, Michael Jackson, where they had like a hologram of him. It was like I'm a huge fan of his, of course. It was like really amazing experience, and some of the best food like that I've ever had out there. Some of the restaurants, for sure. Okay, next and last question. I want to know a movie and a show that you love.
A movie and a show. A movie, I would say Big Trouble in Little China.
Okay, heard of it. Tell me about. I don't know anything about it.
It's to me one of the best. Okay, so it stars Kurt Russell.
Okay,
this is an 80s movie.
Yeah. Okay.
It's about a guy who goes into Chinatown and he's fighting a bunch of bad guys.
Okay.
I'm gonna just simplify it, and he has to help save a woman who gets kidnapped.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay.
And he's doing it to help his buddy. The buddy is the girl, is the female who gets kidnapped is her fiance.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So he's doing it to help the friend.
Got it.
Right. And so it's hilarious. It's action, and I've been watching that movie like since I was a kid, man, and I still love it to this day. So all right. So as far as show.
Nice.
There's a show I can never get tired of. It's funny. I'll say probably something like Seinfeld.
Oh, nice, man. Okay. Best sitcom of all time, people say.
Oh man, it's up there because it's still relevant.
Yep.
It is. I mean, that and Curb Your Enthusiasm to me that is so hilarious to me, man.
So good. So good. I'm waiting for the next season's gonna be the last of Curb. I think season 12, I guess, or 11. But that's coming out soon. I was literally just watching Seinfeld earlier today. I am going through the whole series on Netflix. I'm on the second to last season, so I forget if it's 7 or second to last season right now. Like I just ended like the whole story arc where George's fiance dies and stuff, and then he's like so happy about it, which is so wild and insane.
Crazy.
It's such a good show.
Stuff that you shouldn't be laughing at, you laugh at. It's hilarious.
That's exactly it, man. Yo, so here's the deal, man. Had an awesome time. I'll give you a handshake if you're there. You know what I'm saying? There we go. That's a first. I haven't done that before on the show, but I just feel it's appropriate. Really enjoyed the conversation. This is one where I probably talked more than most other episodes, just because for whatever reason, I felt like, a conversation was.
I bring it out in people,
dude,
man.
Yeah,
they open up,
dude. Yeah, usually, and my wife always gets it. She's like, wait, it's like, weren't you like interviewing the person? Like, you need 70-30, 70-30, 80. So I'm like, you know what? Sometimes it just happens this way, and hopefully the viewers were okay with that. That just means I'll have you on again at some point in 2024. And we'll talk about, there's a lot of things that I want to still kind of chop it up with you about. So I'd love to have you on again.
Cool. Be my pleasure.
Have a great rest of your night, man, and I'll see you next time, all right?
Likewise.
All right, peace.